I've watched Battlestar Galactica 3 times now. Once when I was a teenager, and a couple years later as a grown man. And every time, what gets me isn't the Cylons. It isn't the battles, mythology, or the controversial ending. It's something less obvious than all of that. The way Tig looks after New Caprica. The way Duala looks after Earth. The way Gaeta sits in that cell before the execution. The way Lee keeps showing up, again and again, having lost everything he believed in, and somehow still asking what is the right thing to do. These people are demolished by what happens to them, and the show makes sure you feel every bit of it. Some of them lose themselves. Others find a way back. So that's what this video is about. Not the plot, not the lore, you already know all of that from my previous videos. This is about the psychology of the show, what it understands about pressure and fear, and the particular kind of damage that comes from having no escape. I want to look at 4 things specifically: permanent threat, claustrophobia, paranoia, and the need for meaning, and track what they do to the characters we actually care about. Because I think BSG got something right that most shows get wrong. It understood that people don't just randomly break. They erode, quietly, over time, until one day there's just not enough left. There's a kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. It comes from never being able to switch off. From your nervous system being on alert for so long that it forgets there's any other way to be. Quiet starts to feel suspicious. A good day feels like a trap, and the worst part is it sneaks up on you. You don't notice it happening. You just notice one day that you can't remember what it felt like to not be afraid. Now imagine that's not just a phase. Imagine there's no holiday, no quiet weekend where you can start to decompress. The threat is permanent. Safety is not a destination you're moving towards. It's something that just no longer exists. What does that do to a person over time? It doesn't make you stronger. That's the myth. What it actually does is make you exhausted. Your world shrinks down to the next threat and how to survive it. Long-term thinking becomes a luxury you can't afford. Joy becomes a distant memory. And the people around you stop being people you can fully relax with and become potential problems. You're still functioning. You're still showing up. From the outside, you might even look fine, but you can only run on empty for so long. Humans need space. We evolved under open skies, with horizons, with the ability to walk away, to be somewhere else, to have a place that is just ours. The fleet has none of that. Same corridors, same faces, same recycled air that has been breathed by the same people so many times, it feels less like air and more like a shared secret nobody asked to be part of. You can't go for a walk. You can't be alone. You can't escape the person who humiliated you last week or the memory of what happened last month, because everything happened here, in these same rooms, and you're still inside them, and there's no horizon. That detail sounds small, but I think it matters more than the show ever explicitly says. Humans orient themselves by distance, by the sense that there is more world out there. The vastness of space sounds like it should provide that, but it doesn't. It actually does the opposite, because you can't really go anywhere. You can look at infinity through a window and still feel completely trapped. Closed spaces do something specific to people. It makes everything feel higher stakes than it is. Small irritations become unbearable. Old wounds don't heal because you keep bumping into them. Hierarchies get enforced and starts to feel less like order and more like the last thing standing between everyone and complete psychological collapse. This forced intimacy cuts both ways. Yes, it creates bonds, genuine ones, the kind of closeness that only comes from surviving something together. But it also means you cannot get away from the people who hurt you. You cannot get away from your own worst moments. Everything that happens in front of witnesses. And you wake up the next day, and those witnesses are still there, in the same corridor, eating the same food, breathing the same air. Trust is not something you think about until it's gone. When it works, it's invisible. You move through the world, assuming that the people around you are roughly who they appear to be, that your colleagues are your colleagues, your friends are your friends. You don't verify it constantly because you don't have to. The assumption of good faith is the invisible infrastructure that makes everything else possible. Now, pull that out. Not because you've become irrational, not because something is wrong with you, but because the evidence genuinely supports your suspicion. Because the enemy could genuinely look like your neighbor or even your oldest friend. How the hell do you even deal with that? You can't just forget about it. This kind of paranoia is legit. It's a rational response to reality. And that's what makes it so dangerous. Because you can treat irrational fear. You can talk someone down from something that isn't real. But when the fear is earned, when the suspicion is justified, you can't reason your way out of it. And so it spreads. First, you stop trusting strangers, then people you work with. Then the circle tightens further and further until you're not sure about anyone. And the irony is that the more you suspect people, the more you push them into actually betraying you. Paranoia is contagious, and in a closed system with no exit, it has nowhere to go but inward. Communities don't collapse because of the enemy outside. They collapse because of what the fear of that enemy does to the relationships inside. Here is something true about human beings. We can endure almost anything if we believe it means something. Terrible conditions, physical suffering, loss, grief. People survive all of it, as long as there is an answer to the question underneath everything else. The question that doesn't go away, no matter how tired you are or how much you've lost. Why am I still here? Why does this matter? Why should I keep going when keeping going costs this much? And in ordinary life, that question gets answered in ordinary ways. Family, work, faith. The sense that you are part of something larger than yourself, that your presence in the world makes some small difference to someone. These answers are so baked into everyday life that most people never have to consciously reach for them. They're just there, but strip everything away. Take the home, the routine, the community and future you were building. Put people under pressure so relentless that survival itself becomes the highest principle. And suddenly, the question is no longer background noise. It's the only thing left, and people will reach for anything to answer it. They will construct meaning out of whatever is available. Prophecy, mission, ideology, love, revenge, or faith in something they're not even sure they believe in anymore. Because the alternative, the possibility that there is no why, that all of this is just suffering without purpose or destination, that is the thing that actually breaks people. Not the enemy outside, not the fear, not even the loss. The silence where the answer used to be. And the heartbreaking thing is that meaning can't be manufactured under pressure. You can't decide to find something meaningful and have that be enough. It either holds or it doesn't. And when it stops holding, when the thing you were surviving for turns out to be ash, literally or otherwise, what's left is a kind of emptiness that is very hard to come back from. So, can human beings remain psychologically intact under endless survival pressure? No, not really. Not completely. Not without cost. And I think BSG earns the right to say that because it never says it cheaply. It doesn't enjoy the suffering. It doesn't wallow. It just looks, clearly, honestly, without flinching, at what this kind of existence actually does to people. And it trusts you to look with it. But here's the thing I keep coming back to. Intact is maybe the wrong word. Maybe the wrong goal. Because the people who make it through, and some of them do make it through, don't make it through unchanged. They make it through transformed. Carrying things they didn't choose to carry, missing parts of themselves they'll never get back, different in ways that can't be undone. But still here, still choosing, still, on their best days, reaching for something good, and the ones who don't make it, they're not failures. They're not weak. They're just people who ran out of road before they found something to hold on to. And the show treats them with the same honesty and the same dignity as everyone else. Because it understands that the difference between surviving and not surviving is not always character. Sometimes it's just luck, just timing, just whether the thing that finally breaks you arrives on a day when you have something left, or a day when you don't. That's not a comfortable idea, but it's a true one, and I think that's why this show stays with you. Not because it's dark. Plenty of shows are dark. But because underneath all of it, underneath the trauma and the paranoia and the claustrophobia and the desperate scramble for meaning, there is something that feels like compassion for all of them, even the ones who do terrible things, even the ones who don't make it back. BSG looks at the worst of what pressure does to people and somehow, quietly, refuses to stop believing in them anyway.